Hello, welcome to Press Indica Mind Map. Here we have a gallery of around 1000 mind maps which will help you to prepare smoothly for the UPSCs. Okay, so do follow our channel for such amazing content. Now let us focus on the topic at hand. Today we are going to talk about Uniform Civil Code. In brief, if I tell you that what UCC is, then Uniform Civil Code means that we should have a common universal law which governs all the personal matters of an individual. Okay, so I think I have made myself clear. First of all, this is a common universal law, and second, it governs personal matters of an individual. And these personal matters are highlighted over here, which are marriage, divorce, inheritance, and adoption. Okay, so this is in brief what UCC means. We are going to see in detail that what UCC pertains to, arguments in favor, against, and all those things. Now, next question. Why was this in news? This was in news because the CM of the state of Uttarakhand has appointed an expert panel to examine the possibility of applying Uniform Civil Code to the state of Uttarakhand. Now, if I ask you a question, which is the only state in India which as of now has implemented Uniform Civil Code, then the answer will be Goa. Okay, so Goa is the only state which has implemented Uniform Civil Code. Getting the point? Now, what is UCC? As I have told you earlier, let us read over here. This is formulation of one law. Not only one law, one universal law, which applies to all the religions in matters of personal choices. Yeah, in the matter of personal laws. Getting my point? Now see, here I have written the word religion. Now, what is the meaning of the word religion? Look over here. In India, we have different religions coexisting with each other. That may be Islam, that may be Christianity, that may be Sikhism and Hinduism. Okay, so all these laws, they have, yeah, all these religions, they have their separate personal laws which governs the matter of marriage, divorce, inheritance, and adoption. But when Uniform Civil Code will come into prominence, there won't be separate personal laws for different religion, but one common law which will govern these particular parameters of all the religions. Getting the point? Now, let us see. Does Indian Constitution have some provision with regard to the UCC? Yes, we do have a provision. That is Article 44 of the Indian Constitution, which comes under the chapter of DPSP. That is Directive Principles of State Policy. Okay? And what it reads? It reads as, state shall provide throughout India Uniform Civil Code to its citizens. Okay? Now, before talking about the major milestones, let us talk about some points in favor of the argument and some points which are against the argument. Now see, first of all, this will simplify religious laws, which are very complex, and will segregate them. Okay, look over here. Here they have written about two laws, that is Hindu Code Bill and Shariat law. See, what happens is that if every other religion is having their separate personal laws, it becomes very difficult for the legal fraternity to judge on these matters because they will have to be well equipped in all these laws. But when we make a common law, then the judge can read this law and it will be easier for him to interpret. Okay, now see, next point is secularism. Yes, obviously this will promote secularism. Why? Because there will be one common law which will govern some basic tenets of an individual existence, which will be independent of religion. Now, see, the word secularism is in itself a very broad word. We have different models of secularism. We have the French model of secularism. We have the American model of secularism. We have our own very Indian model of secularism. This is a topic for discussion for some other day when I will talk about Secularism as such, I will tell you what is the distinction between them. But as of now, what you should understand is that secularism means that we treat every religion equally. Okay. There is no partiality in the treatment of any religion. Let us proceed further. Judicial support. Judicial support. How? See, first of all, this will bring equality before law. You have read about Article 14. Article 14 has two things. One is equality before law and the other is equal protection of law. Okay, let us leave this. We will talk about equality before law, which means that everyone is equal in front of law, no matter how high or how low he belongs. So when we will have one common law, what it will do, that it will in turn bring equality before law. Moreover, national harmony. Why? Because there will be less conflict. There will be less conflict. Again, you can also treat this point to be a corollary of the secularism point. How? Because what does secularism does? Secularism, it tries to decrease the division or tries to decrease the friction in the society, and in a way promotes national harmony. Getting the point? Now see, development of vulnerable section. But mainly what it does, it tries to bring in development of women. Okay, so what are the points? Let us see. First, see in marriage. There are instances of forced marriage, polygamy, and bigamy. See, polygamy and bigamy means what? That a person is having more than one wife. See what it does. We know that in a certain religion, the personal law gives permission to have more than one wife. What it does is that when a person will have multiple wives, this is kind of oppressive to women. But when we will make a common law, which will say that you can't marry until and unless you have a living wife, you have a living spouse as of such. Okay. So when I talk about to marriage, let me make this a gender neutral concept. And we will talk about the word spouse and not wives or husband. Getting the point? See again. Property dispute, yes, very well. Because if separate laws have got separate property laws, then when this case goes to the court of law, then the judge over there, he has to read the entire personal law of that particular religion and then interpret. But when we will have UCC, then the judge has to read only one common law. And so interpretation will be easier by. Similar is the cases with adultery and divorce. These will also become redundant in the coming future, and the women shall be freed from the shackles of deprivation which they have been facing from time immemorial. Okay. Now, after having talked so much about the arguments in favor, let us also see some arguments which are against. The first and the foremost is that it is against diversity. You know why? Because in India, we follow a trend of, or we follow a kind of, norm, which teaches us to be tolerant. Okay, which means that we will have separate religions, and we will not try to influence the other religions with the dominating religion, but we will provide space for every religion to have some breathing space. In this way, everyone coexists. Similar is the case with personal laws. Different religions are having different personal laws, which means that what it is trying to promote diversity, and we have to be tolerant towards each and every personal law. And if you are trying to bring in one common universal law which governs the personal aspects of a human's survival, this is against diversity. Okay. Now see, in civil laws, this is applicable only to the civil law and not to the criminal law. You know, in India, we don't have a common criminal law also. Common criminal law also. So how can we talk about bringing in a common civil law? Don't you think that this is a kind of a misnomer? Getting the point? Now, there are some reports of law commission which doesn't support uniform civil code. which does not support uniform civil code, because what it says is that this is neither necessary nor desirable, which means that the present arrangement is going well and fine, and let us continue with it only. Moreover, this is a very politically sensitive issue, and it may lead to communalization of politics, which may lead to excessive violence, which India has been witness to after independence. We have seen a lot of communal violence. There is no scope for one move. Okay. Again, the debate of majority versus minority. What it is kind of superimposition of the majority culture over the minority culture. Article 14, in Article 14, equality does not mean absolute equality. Here, equality also means that what you need to do is that you need to promote equity. Absolute equality was never the goal of Indian Constitution. And also Article 25 gives every individual the right to practice and propagate any religion. And the right to practice and propagate religion also encompasses within it the personal aspects of an individual existence, which is marriage, divorce, inheritance, and so on and so forth. After looking this, let us see what are the major milestones. The first, what was the origin of this particular concept? This origin can be traced back to the French Coup, which was in 1804. There, they did not have any customary laws. Okay, there was a uniform code, which was applicable to everyone. During the British Raj also, we have basically two kind of report or committee, which you might say. One is the Lex Rocky report of 1840, and the other is the B.N. Rao committee. Now, let me ask you a question. Who was B.N. Rao? And towards the end of the lecture, I will give the answer to this question. Okay. Again, these two committees talked about codifying Indian laws on the lines of UCC. Getting the point? And B.N. Rao committee went to such an extent that it also said that once you codify Hindu laws, equal rights should be given to women. Post independence, some laws were passed in the Indian Parliament. Those were the Special Marriages Act and the Hindu Code Bill. Okay. Now, what the Special Marriage Act had? This had civil marriage to any citizens. In simple language, if two persons belonging to separate religion want to get married, then they get their marriage registered under Special Marriages Act of 1954. The Hindu Code Bill, which I was talking about, this basically consists of these four fundamental laws. Those are Marriage Act, Succession Act, Minority and Guardianship Act, and Adoption and Maintenance Act. You must have heard about the Shah Bano case of 1985. Now, basically, in this Shah Bano case, Supreme Court gave a ruling. Supreme Court gave a ruling where it said that the Muslim women should be paid compensation by the husband for her entire lifetime. But the parliament superseded this particular judgment by bringing in a law. And in that law, it again restored the provisions which was mentioned in the Sharia provision. Okay. So in a way, what Supreme Court did in the Shah Bano case, that indirectly it gave a framework for uniform civil, which was restored by an act of the parliament. Okay. We have one more case by the name of Jordan Denigdek case. It talked about urgent uniform civil code implementation. And in the Sarla Mudgal case, Supreme Court reiterated its earlier stance. Okay. And we can see in the Shaira Bano case, in which Supreme Court, as late as 2017, questioned the constitutionality of triple talaq and ultimately declared it to be unconstitutional. So what is it? This is nothing but a way towards implementation of uniform civil code. But the road is very bumpy over here. And we also have some measures how we can smoothly either enable this transition, or rather we can try to implement some dynamic changes into this status quo approach. First is we should educate the citizens. There should be open debates regarding these sensitive issues. Okay. The education should be about the positives of UCC. And how can we educate citizens? By using the powerful tool of media, and in today's world, the powerful tool of social media. We will also talk about the effects of UCC. And when we talk about the boons and banes of this particular concept, then a particular conclusion can be drawn. Okay. The codification of all laws, what it does, this provides for universal principles. For example, equality, equity. This is a universal principle. This is not the prerogative of any particular religion, any particular creed, but a universal concept. We also can go through a piecemeal approach. Piecemeal approach means that we can try to implement some portions of the personal laws or the personal belongings of a person. Say, for example, first of all, we can codify only the divorce laws, only the inheritance laws, only the marriage laws. And when we get to know about the success of these particular things, then we can apply it uniformly. Okay. We should also try, what we should try to do is that we should try to eradicate discrimination among personal laws by trying to bring in suitable amendments in them. Okay. So this is a topic which will be in use for some time to come. We are having many state CMs which go on and talk about the Uniform Civil Codes and its implementation. But yes, this is a very tough bone of contention between different citizens. Everyone have got their own arguments. Let us see what proceeds. Okay, thank you very much.